Is it really possible to trick your brain to never feel tired or lazy anymore? Well, I wanted to find out. So I listened to all the best advice from the top scientists on the topic, read a bunch of books, and I think I found a simple framework that actually works. And I've been applying it. And one thing that I will say is if you listen to this, I almost guarantee you will see a noticeable increase in your productivity. And the first step in reprogramming your brain to go from lazy to productive is understanding dopamine, what it is, how it works, and how to manage it. Dopamine is a chemical in our brain that essentially manages motivation. When you get a release of dopamine, you get a temporary feeling of pleasure, which is why dopamine is typically called the feel-good chemical in our brain. But dopamine typically spikes in anticipation of a reward, not from receiving it. Essentially, it is communicating with our brain that this feels good, we want more, which drives motivation. So what's the problem with that? Well, dopamine isn't focused on the long term or the quality of that good feeling. So you can get releases in dopamine from sitting there and scrolling Instagram the same way that you can get it from working on a project. And if we're lazy, we'll just train our brain to seek that cheap, easy sources of dopamine rather than working towards meaningful things to get the releases in dopamine the way our biology originally intended. The end result is that we're constantly saying, why am I doing something hard when I could just do the easy thing to get that same feeling that I want, which could just make us even more lazy. So how do you fix this? Well, it's not as hard as you might think. You can just change your relationship with all sources of cheap dopamine, mostly social media, junk food, and similar unhealthy things. Essentially, you want your dopamine to be coming from sources that are actually productive and good, like working towards a goal. Think about it like this. You probably already use your phone for hours a day and nobody asks you to. So if you remove that source of dopamine, your brain still wants dopamine all the same. So it'll start to search for other sources where it can get that release of good feelings. And then you provide it with the solution of doing productive work. And then just like that, the hard things will start to feel like play. But understanding and optimizing dopamine is just the tip of the iceberg. When you combine it with the steps that you can do physically, understanding your brain's chemistry and how your environment affects everything, all of which I'll talk about later in this video, you can almost eliminate feeling tired and lazy altogether. Now picture this. Picture how you feel when you wake up in the morning naturally versus how you feel when you wake up when there's an alarm clock blasting in your ear. You could have slept the exact same amount, but when you wake up naturally, you'll probably just feel better, right? So we want to use this power of our natural biology, not by not using an alarm clock, which just isn't practical, but by seeing the sun as soon as we wake up, which is said to be the most powerful stimulus for wakefulness and energy throughout the entire day. If you've been on the internet lately, you've probably heard of Andrew Huberman, the professor of neuroscience from Stanford. He's all over social media nowadays, and this is something that he swears by. But if you wake up and the sun isn't out, like maybe you wake up too early or something like that, or you live in Canada during the winter like I do, you can try artificial lights or just get outside as soon as possible once the sun is actually up. But here's the thing. There's something that everybody does, but most people have been doing it wrong their entire lives without knowing it, and that's sleeping. So what's wrong with how you sleep? Well, sleep is probably the most misunderstood aspect when it comes to productivity. Nearly every single person should be sleeping at least 7 hours a night. Most people closer to 8, because this increases focus and alertness. It also decreases the chance we get almost every single disease that you can think of, which is obviously nice, but the quantity of sleep isn't enough. The quality of your sleep also matters. So in order to get a high quality night of sleep, you want to be sleeping in a dark environment, which you can do with a blackout curtain or a sleeping mask. I personally do both. And then you can also sleep in a room that's a little bit colder, probably about 70 degrees Fahrenheit or about 20 degrees Celsius. You want to do this because your body actually cools down by 1 to 3 degrees when you go to sleep. So having a colder temperature actually helps you sleep better. Also, you can avoid drinking water 2 hours before bed, avoid eating about a couple hours before bed, and avoid using technology about 30 minutes before bed, for pretty obvious reasons. Now, getting sunlight and a good night's sleep is going to work great, but it's really going to be most effective at eliminating feeling tired and lazy when you combine it with the next few steps. Now, when I was first looking into this, I already knew of the importance of having a good night's sleep, right? So I did all the basic optimization, but I still wasn't feeling as energized. I'm still feeling a bit lazy, and I was wondering why I was feeling that way. Then one day I had a hard workout, and I came home, jumped into bed, didn't even do half my nightly routine, and I slept awesome. And then I woke up the next day feeling great, feeling energized, like better than I had felt all week. The thing is, physical activity increases blood flow to the brain, right? So that improves your cognitive abilities like memory, attention, problem solving, which makes it easier to stay focused all throughout the day and makes it easier to sleep at night as well. And regular physical activity can boost endurance and strength, which makes regular everyday tasks feel less tiring, which lead to more sustained energy all throughout the day, let alone all the other health benefits of exercise. But almost everybody knows that they should be exercising. Like, I don't need to tell you that, right? But sometimes you just don't feel like you're physically able to. Maybe you're just feeling tired or you're feeling weak that day, but that can change with the next few simple steps, like drinking the right amount of water. At first, I thought the amount of water that I drank had nothing to do with energy levels or productivity. And when I realized just how impactful the amount of water that I was drinking was on me, I was completely shocked. Even minor dehydration completely changes physical and mental performance. When you drink the right amount of water, you'll have more energy, improved mental clarity, improved physical performance, and a bunch of other benefits. Essentially, you'll be able to be more productive and more energized almost effortlessly just by drinking water. And for reference, the average person should be drinking about 4 liters of water a day, or about 1 gallon daily. You may think that you're doing that, but most people don't come anywhere close to that. So I'd recommend getting a gallon jug and fill that first thing in the morning, and hopefully finish that about 2 hours before bed. That's normally what I do. Here, a gallon jug like this. This is a little less than a gallon, but I still use it. And having a jug like this is a perfect example of priming your environment. Imagine this. Imagine walking into somebody's house for the first time, and then they ask you to find a pencil and then just leave. They don't give you any direction. They say they really need the pencil, just go find it. That would probably be pretty stressful, right? But what if that person had a perfectly organized house and everything was exactly where it should be? Well, that would be a lot less stressful, right? Well, that's what it's like when you prime your environment. You're making it as easy as possible to do the uncomfortable things that you know that you should be doing. For example, I sleep with a little notebook next to my bed rather than my phone, and I sleep with my phone in a completely separate room. So it's easy for me to journal and harder for me to doom scroll before bed. This is so effective because of something called activation energy. The more activation energy required to do something, the less likely you are to do any specific task. Like, imagine somebody walks in your room right now and just puts a donut right in front of you and says, hey, you want it? Like, you might take it. Even if you weren't that hungry or didn't really want a donut, you might still take it. But then if that person walked into your room and said, hey, do you want to drive 20 minutes to go buy a donut? You'd probably be like, nah, I don't want to do that. But in both cases, you just have one donut. So the easier it is to access, the more likely you are to do it. And this is something that's really easy to implement that you can start to implement today. You can just remove social media apps off your phone entirely once you're done using them, and then just download them if you need to use them again in the future. It's just a small, simple change, but that would require you to take an extra step to use the app, so you'll be less likely to do it, which will lead to more mental clarity and less feeling lazy. Now, all these actions will give you more energy and more focus, but it won't work as effectively unless you master this next step. Because at the end of the day, you're still human. You can do all the perfect optimization, but they won't leave a lasting impact, because how you think and behave towards your action will affect how effective they are. So if you really want to eliminate feeling lazy or feeling tired from your life, you need to create a clear vision. You need to think about your life and how it would be if you felt energized every morning rather than tired. What if you felt motivated rather than lazy? How much more would you get done? How much better would your life look? And then you need to identify with that vision that you've created of that optimized version of yourself. Because in order for this goal, or any goal for that matter, to be effective, it needs to be obtainable and somewhat challenging, but most importantly, very meaningful. So why is this so effective? Well, having a vision that matches these 3 criteria tricks your brain to automatically be more productive for a couple key reasons. If your brain associates a task with being unobtainable or impossible, you'll quickly become demotivated or disinterested, which will make you procrastinate and feel lazy. But if a task is too easy, you'll be bored, and then you'll be less productive and feel lazy as well. But now when something's obtainable but somewhat challenging, like the steps in this video lay out, they're somewhat challenging but still obtainable, it makes it so much easier and so much more naturally motivating to do that. So now you need to associate your current actions with a meaningful outcome, which you can do through creating a vision, like I've mentioned. But when you do this, your brain will naturally find the exact same actions more desirable, and you'll be able to stay focused and be more productive, even if you're working a 9-to-5 job that you're completely not passionate about. If you view it as a method of providing for your side business that you want to grow, or providing for your family, all of a sudden that can be very meaningful and you'll have more motivation. For me, making YouTube videos is a constant learning challenge, right? But I find it very meaningful because I believe that there's an obtainable outcome to build a life around this and have a community and the surroundings of like-minded people who want to improve and have a better life, right? Which allows my brain to naturally focus a lot more. And if you want to be a part of that journey to feel less tired and achieve the best version of yourself, subscribe and then check out this video next.